Hey everyone, it's the Olmec Ambassador. Welcome back to my channel. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell. If you feel like donating to this channel, you can donate at my Cash App, $transactions 415. So today I want to talk about the basic of human rights. This is something we as a people have never exercised. Um, like I said before, I've been into this international law now for 10 years, and I've actually applied the shit in court. Now, I will say this though, in the United States courts, they do not and will not honor uh, international human rights. However, I did learn over the years that in order to actually exercise them against the United States, only another state can accuse them or hold them for violating human rights in the International Court of Justice. So that with that being said, I then had to learn how to create a nation so that we could do this. And that's exactly what I did. In 2021, I created the Olmec Office of Sovereign Political Power Holders, the short name, the Olmec State. And with this nation, only under the constitution and laws of that nation, only uh, people who identify as indigenous to the Americas, who look like me, will be accepted as citizens of that nation. The goal or the plan is to file a lawsuit in the International Court of Justice against the United Nations, in the United Nations, against the United States of America. I've done my research. And trust me when I say, and I'll prove it. Every word I say, I can prove it in the paperwork. But I'm going to show you guys how we are going to go to the United Nations International Court of Justice and do just that. We're going to sue the United States. But first, I need to get you all to understand the basics of international law, and that basic being human rights. So we're going to start with the human rights that the United States are signatory to, meaning that they signed these human rights and became party to these human rights in the United Nations. And when they do that, that means that they are taking responsibility as a nation for themselves in the international plane. So the first one that, and well, to me, the most important one is the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. So, Article 1, Clause 1, the first paragraph being clauses in the law are paragraphs. That term means the same thing. So, Article 1, Clause 1, it states all peoples have the right of self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. Self-determination. I'm sure a lot of you don't know what that means because I didn't know what it meant when I first seen it. So I have with me Black's Law Dictionary. This is the 9th edition. First, I'm going to read the definition of human rights. The freedoms, immunities, and benefits that, according to modern values, especially at the international level, all human beings should be able to claim as a matter of right in the society in which they live. So that's what human rights mean. Now, technically, they don't have a definition for self-determination on the international level, but I'm going to read to you what determination means in the Black's Law Dictionary under the second definition: the ending or expiration of an estate or interest in property or of a right, power, or authority. So this was the right under Article 1, Clause 1 in the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Now, in my last video, I told y'all about the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Well, in Article 3 and 4, but I'm going to read 3 first, it reads, indigenous peoples have the right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. Well, Article 4 goes a little bit more in depth and states that indigenous peoples, in exercising their right to self-determination, have the right to autonomy or self-government in matters relating to their internal and local affairs, as well as ways and means for financing their autonomous functions. In this Black's Law Dictionary, they go on to give a definition for self-determination contracts. And under the Indian Self-Determination and Education Assistance Act, an agreement under which the federal government provides funds to an Indian tribe and allows the tribe to plan and administer a program that would otherwise be administered by the federal government. Now, I'm going to go a little deeper and try to explain to y'all why I don't want to fuck with the self-determination contract issued by the federal government of the United States, and would rather go the route of suing the United States of America in the international court for our right to self-identify and exercise self-determination. I'm going to read for y'all a case that the United States Supreme Court issued. And this case is titled Cherokee Nation versus Georgia. And it's from 1831. But this case has never been overturned. So it means it's still considered to be common law, good common law in their system of courts and their judicial system. So this is what concerns me about a self-determination contract with the United States of America. So it says, though the Indians are acknowledged to have an unquestionable and heretofore unquestioned right to the lands they occupy, until that right shall be extinguished by a voluntary cessation to our government, they may, more correctly, perhaps, be denominated domestic dependent nations. Meanwhile, they are in a state of pupillage. Their relation to the United States resembles that of a ward to his guardian. They look to our government for protection, rely upon its kindness and its power, appeal to it for relief to their wants, and addresses the president as their great father. They and their country are considered by foreign nations, as well as by ourselves, as being completely under the sovereignty and dominion of the United States. That any attempt to acquire their lands or to form a political connection with them would be considered by all as an invasion of our territory and an act of hostility. Well, I don't give a fuck about being hostile towards them. We've been at war anyway. They've been hostile towards us since they came and colonized. So us being scary ain't worked to this point. It's time for us to no longer be cowards. Quite simply, we've been cowards up to this point. Somebody got to strap their fucking balls on and fight back. I'm one of them motherfuckers. Believe me. I'll share with y'all my motherfucking criminal goddamn record. And it's got some violent shit in it. Now I'm just finna turn that violence to the motherfuckers who are actually violent towards our people. All right, with that being said, and I ain't trying to, get into all of that type of shit, but right now we're gonna focus on how to actually take our shit back and peacefully, because in the United Nations, though, it's supposed to be about peace. Now we're gonna peacefully demand our rights be exercised, and if it ain't, then shit, it is what it is. I tell you one thing, I ain't finna do: let a motherfucker harm me. And again, my record reflects that shit. I will be a very violent motherfucker. I'm with the shit. Shit. Real fucking talk. But that ain't what we're here for. We're here to try to exercise this shit peacefully. Give them a chance to give us our shit. Get the fuck on out our way and let us be us. But at the same time, in building this nation, I believe the first thing we need to build is a army, a military. We have to protect ourselves, our government, our people. So let's get to this self-determination and how to actually exercise this shit. So I mentioned that the international plane is the organizations that were created by all of the nations of the earth. And from my research in the past 500 years, we've never had a nation as a people. And we're the only people on the earth in the last 500 years to not have our own nation. And it's time to rectify that. Now, the Olmec state, I came up with that after doing my research on the Olmecs itself, which is actually based in Central America, being Mexico and shit, Peru and all of that. But that doesn't mean that throughout colonization from 1492 up until this point, doesn't mean that we couldn't have been in those areas and been pushed as they colonized, just like we were pushed from the East Coast when the British came west. So there's no doubt in my mind that, at the beginning of colonization with the Spaniards, we ventured up north, further and further up north, as the colonizers continued to come from Europe. So at this point, it started out with 3 people when it was first created. Me as the ambassador, and another guy and another female. I'm not going to mention their names, but the guy has since passed in 2021. He passed actually in 2022. And the girl, although we haven't been in contact, because I'll explain that. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to get into it now. In 2021, when I created this nation, I also established or had made plates for my truck. And I also obviously created other documents that I filed with the United Nations and the regional organization of the United Nations in this region known as the Organization of American States, which are 35 nations in the American continent, which consists of this Organization of American States. Now, the Organization of American States, being a regional agency of the United Nations, has to follow all of the conventions and declarations of the United Nations. Those are binding on that regional organization, agency. So everything in the United Nations that is passed by um, the General Assembly of the United Nations, which is basically like the Congress to the United States, that's the General Assembly of the United Nations is basically their Congress. They pass laws there. They have the authority to pass international laws. And so after I filed all that um, and had those plates made, 4 months I rode around with those plates. I live in what's you all know to be Michigan, and I I never went. I had my license annulled, my driver's license annulled, my birth certificate, and social security number and all that shit. I did all the paperwork with the United States to have all that shit notified. So, and I did all of that, along with filing those other papers in the United Nations. So when I had those plates on my car, so I'm riding around here in Michigan, and a few months later, police get behind me, try to pull me over, but I don't stop. I go to my destination. I just keep going to my destination, which wasn't too far. But I get to my destination, he jump out of the car, whip out his gun, you know, yelling and screaming. I'm sitting there smoking a blunt, just looking at this fucking idiot. So, hit my blunt a few times, put it out. I know it's finna be a problem. I know I'm probably finna go to jail. And obviously that's what happened. So I go to jail. And I had all these documents with me in my truck. So I tell dude, I'm taking that shit with me. That's evidence that I'm using in my case. He refuses. Put my paperwork back in my car, and then had my car towed. And when I went to jail, they told my people they couldn't come get it. Only I could come get my fucking truck. And that was in March 2022, that day that I went to jail. So I went to jail that day, and ended up spending 10 months in the county jail before I got found guilty at trial, and was sentenced to 3 to 10 years. Well, once I got to prison, I found out the judge changed the charges after the trial, gave me worse charges than what I was actually charged with, so that he can give me more time. I really wasn't supposed to get sentenced to more than 2 years, but they ended up giving me 3 to 10 when he changed the charges. So I filed a bunch of paperwork while I was in the county jail, and they obviously denied it. So I went to prison, and I was in prison until January this year, 2025. I'm out on an appeal bond, a $10,000 appeal bond. I appealed the case because I raised a bunch of issues, one being that he changed it, and the other being that I'm entitled to diplomatic immunity because I'm the Olmec ambassador, and I can prove it with the documents that I filed in the court that was filed in the international plane, being the United Nations and the Organization of American States. So I had evidence that I filed all this shit, and that the Olmec state does actually exist as a person of international law. So it's undisputable that the Olmec state exists, and no one can take that shit away. Right. So now I'm out on bond. Been out since January. Now I have no state ID ID for the state of Michigan, no social security number, and I don't recognize the government of the United States or the state of Michigan as being owners of the land. Because when I created the uh, Olmec state, I also created a document which is called an Aboriginal title and a land trust to the territory which you all know as the state of Michigan. And I detailed specifically the outline boundaries that the state of Michigan uses to occupy the territory. See, there's a difference between occupying a territory and owning land. The United States of America and the state of Michigan only occupies the territory through an act of war. So when they can't, colonization is a war, is an act of war. As long as they are occupying this territory, because they can never own the land, the occupation is hostile. And this is why and I'll prove it to you. Hold on. All right, so under the Convention respecting the laws and customs on the war on land and its annex, a territory is considered occupied. Well, this is Article 42. A territory is considered occupied when it is actually placed under the authority of the hostile army. The occupation extends only to the territory where such authority has been established and can be exercised. Article 45. It is forbidden to compel the inhabitants of occupied territory to swear allegiance to the hostile power. So, again, this is a United Nations Convention, which is law that the United States are a party to. So, if the United States are occupying this territory, and this is why the President of the United States is the, what is it called? The head of the military. He's the head. That's it. Even though he's the President of the United States, his actual duty is to be the head of the military. This is why he can start wars and shit. So, because we have a right not to be compelled to the allegiance to the United States of America, then we do have a human right to exercise self-determination and expatriate from the citizenship that was forced upon us by this act of war, right? So this is why I created the Olmec state. So since I've been out of prison, and because I don't have any of the documents for being a citizen of the United States and the state of Michigan, I can't get a job. The banking situation I've had a bank account, I don't know, for a long time, and it's still active, and I can use it. But because I don't have an ID, I can't go into a branch and say, do business. It all has to be done online or, through some, ATM. So I'm kind of in between a rock and a hard place. And I'm really struggling. I ain't gonna lie. I've since 2015, I've used every dime that I've made to build this. Um, and believe me when I say court costs and filings, that shit is really fucking expensive. And this last case kind of knocked me out. I mean, actually, I had 4 cases. I had 2 attempted murders, 2 assaults with a dangerous weapon, uh, fleeing and eluding the police, assault on the police, and and while I was in the county jail, I caught an assault on staff and 2 inmates. So, but I ended up beating all of the cases except for the fleeing and eluding and the assault on the police officer. But that's what I'm out on appeal bond for now. So it took me after I got sent to prison in January of 2023. It took me 2 years to go through fighting those cases and getting those cases dismissed. And as soon as I got the last one of those cases dismissed in November, I filed for an appeal bond. Now, normally they give what's called personal recognizance bonds when you get an appeal bond, but because I'm the most hated motherfucking man in Michigan, they charged me $10,000 to get out. And, my people paid that to get me out. Now, my people, they kind of proud that I got the backbone to do this shit, but they ain't got the backbone to stand behind. I come from a family who, in my opinion, they are good fucking citizens. That's the best way I can explain it without being, an asshole to my people. But if I were to describe any other motherfucker, black motherfucker who, shit, they, anyway, so I need people with backbone and a will to fight this fight, man. That coward shit, I'm not with it, and I'm not gonna have no coward motherfuckers around me, male, female, it don't matter. Um, you come over here doing this shit is real shit, you know. Uh, I've made, I've taken the fight I'm almost done. I'm almost done taking this fight out of the hands of the judicial system of the United States. I'm almost done. Because believe me when I tell you, none of them want to argue the, the, the basis of me exercising not only human rights, but the rights of indigenous people to have our own nation. So now I want to get more deep into why I chose the route internationally. So after we win, because that I promise you we're gonna fucking win. I'm cold with this shit. I really am. I ain't trying to. I'm really fucking cold at this legal shit. I am. I've been studying this shit a long time, and I'm good at it. I ain't gonna lie. I go in court, man, and the prosecutor would rather dismiss the fucking case than to argue me, you know, because I lay this shit out, and I use their fucking laws, and I'll go as we go on. I'm going to explain to y'all step by step what I've done and what my next moves are. So I want to let y'all know that as we move forward, anybody that joins me, you don't literally have to live on this land. You can stay where you are, wherever you are, in the United States, that is. In the United States, not outside the United States. Because right now we're only focused on the United United States and getting back our rights here on this particular land. So it doesn't matter where you are. If you join as a citizen of the Olmec state, you are going to then receive the rights of the citizens of the Olmec state. And when you join, I'm going to send you copies of, there's a lot of documents that you'll receive and that you'll be able to use and as evidence when you file things and all that shit. But I'm going to be honest, I have used all of my resources because the shit ain't none of this shit free. And when we go to the International Court of Justice, that shit is really gonna be expensive. I mean, it's gonna be expensive because the court, I believe, is in Switzerland. I believe. I have to check, but I think it's in Switzerland. But then there are, the cost of me actually doing all the paperwork. I don't have anyone assisting me. But that's something that I plan to get as we progress and raise money to make shit like that happen. Um, the citizenship to the Olmec state, I don't know how much I'm gonna charge. It, right now. I'm just gonna base it on like an hourly rate. How long it takes me to do paperwork for each person, and go from there. Um, Lawyers charge 150. Like that's the lowest I believe that a lawyer charges to do legal work. Um, Obviously, I ain't gonna charge that much. I'll probably charge like $40, $50 an hour, and that's just to do the paperwork to get you to become a citizen, so that you can also expatriate. Because I'm gonna show you how to expatriate from the citizenship of the United States. And expatriate simply means to relinquish your citizenship with the United States. And I'm also going to explain to you why we're not going to choose the self-determination contract, which I just read the reason why you should understand, because we're not going to be you know, treated like children in our own fucking land any fucking longer. And the only way for that to be is for us to stand up and exercise and our right to self-determination and shit, govern ourselves. That's really all it comes down to. We have to govern ourselves, which means we can't allow no bullshit. This what I'm doing ain't, this shit ain't no bullshit, man. That gang banging shit ain't with it. The self destruction ain't with it. Women, we ain't finna have no women that's all ass. No, that shit ain't finna reflect us as a people. Again, I talked about how another identity along with this is the Hebrew Israelites, and again, there's a reason why. Um, I don't know if you all know, but the identity of the Hebrew Israelite under international law, they are a very special people. The Hebrew Israelite under international law is like probably the most special people on the planet. And everybody in the world knows who the real Hebrew Israelites are. I now know. And when you come join, you're gonna know. Because I'm finna share secrets that's only in the law books that I guarantee you motherfuckers ain't never heard of or ever seen. Because it's some shit that they've been keeping. And it's not like, I ain't gonna lie, it ain't even like they've been keeping it from us. The shit's been in the fucking books all the time, the whole time. We just never looked. We never looked. But it's there. And I know them. And I ain't gonna lie, right now I'm only focused on getting people to commit to what I'm doing here in what we call the state of Michigan, but now it's actually called the Olmec state, because that Aboriginal title and land patent that I created, it's binding, and it's filed in the United Nations and the Organization of American States. And not only that, I've sent notice to the right people in the United States and here in the state of Michigan. You know, the governor wrote me a letter talking about some good luck and all that bullshit, you know, back then. And I don't need luck. You know, this is some divine shit that you know is meant to happen, and it's meant to happen right now at this time. So this is a call to the Hebrew Israelites and indigenous people of Americas that look like me, not Africans, not Mexicans, because I don't give a fuck what the that Hebrew Israelite group of purple and gold wearing motherfuckers. Don't get me wrong. Pardon me. I didn't mean to call y'all motherfuckers because I respect y'all because y'all trying to do something. But yeah, Mexicans and Africans are not us. They not like us. So they won't be included in what we're doing. And if no African Americans or blacks or whatever the fuck y'all want to call yourselves, you ain't even invited. Because if you still have that state of mind that you black or African American or you're part of this Pan African bullshit, take your ass to Africa. Go. That ain't what we on here. And I'm not even focused on that. If that's what y'all want to do, by all means go. And if you feel like you are a U.S. citizen, again, do you. I'm not asking no motherfucker who ain't got their heart into this shit and really want to fucking change the conditions of our people. I'm not asking y'all to come because this shit that I'm doing over here, man, this shit take balls. It take a motherfucker that want to fight, you know. And again, no cowards coming over here. And you gotta, and here you have to participate. This is a lifelong thing. You have to actually participate in our government. This is the only way it's gonna work. You all are going to have to educate yourselves, and we're gonna have to do for ourselves. Now, the benefits to this shit: claiming our land, the ownership of our land in the international court. That means we have all the fucking power. All of it. I mean, we have the power to tell everyone that's in our land what the fuck to do up under our laws. They have to live by our laws. And I'll prove this shit. This is what I'm saying. That international law shit is some powerful shit. Our problem is we have been going the wrong judicial route. We've been begging our colonizer in their fucking courts to give us rights. Now these niggas want to beg for fucking reparations in their courts, in their legal system. Pass laws in their system. And the same thing with these Indian nations. They're not considered to be nations. Indian tribes are not nations. They're not self-sustaining. They have no rights. They only get privileges that the United States allows them to have. Same thing as a fucking U.S. citizen. They just give them a little bit more. They give them a little small plot of land and let these motherfuckers pretty much have any businesses that they want up under their own laws. But don't at all be deceived, because if the United States don't agree with it, they're going to shut it fucking down. So the difference is here, they can't shut our shit down. And I'm finna show you why. So I got an international law on the rights and duties of states. And these are the guidelines for the fundamental rights and duties of states in the Organization of American States, meaning the continent of the Americas. So these rights that states have, and to me, this is probably the the number one. The political. This is Article 13 of the Organization of American States Charter. The political existence of the state is independent of recognition by other states. Even before being recognized, the state has the right to defend its integrity and independence, to provide for its preservation and prosperity, and consequently to organize itself as it sees fit, to legislate concerning its interests, to administer its services, and to determine the jurisdiction and competence of its courts. The exercise of these rights is limited only by the exercise of the rights of other states in accordance with international law. Each state has a right to develop, this is Article 17. Each state has a right to develop its cultural, political, and economic life freely and naturally. In this free development, the state shall respect the rights of the individual and the principles of universal morality. The fundamental rights of states may not be impaired in any manner whatsoever. No, Article 19, no state or group of states has the right to intervene directly or indirectly for any reason whatsoever in the internal or external affairs of any other state. The foregoing principle prohibits not only armed force, but also any other form of interference or attempted threat against the personality of the state or against its political, economic, or cultural elements. Now, Article 5 of this other international law, the fundamental rights of states are not susceptible of being affected in any manner whatsoever. So, when we go to the United Nations International Court of Justice, one of the demands is obviously that, the way I'm going to argue this is pretty fucking slick, right? So I'm arguing that the United States has already recognized the Olmec state by task. Oh, let me read that. Okay, hold on. Okay, so the recognition of a state may be express or tacit. The latter, being tacit, results from any act which implies the intention of recognizing the new state. So I'm using I'm going to use this article to argue that the United States has tacitly already recognized the Olmec state as being an independent state here in the Americas. And this is how it's done. So in 2016, Obama signed the United Nations Universal Declaration, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And in that declaration, by signing it and making the United States a party to it, and making it binding on the United States in international courts, that was the tacit recognition. Because the moment that the United States signed that declaration and it became a party to that declaration, they were saying that anyone who chose to identify as an indigenous person of the Americas were then entitled to those rights, and the United States would recognize it. So when they did that in that universal United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, in that document, obviously I just read what self-determination means. So they're saying that we as a people can come together collectively and uh, form ourselves into our own nation and government, right? So that is the argument that I'm going to use, that we've already been recognized by the United States. They're violating our rights by not letting us exercise those rights. And once we have the decision, the final decision from the United Nations, and it's a lot I'm not sharing, obviously, because I ain't giving out too much information. Because my position as the ambassador is to argue the rights of this nation on an international plane. That's my only duty. That person who passed away, his duty was to be the governing president of this nation. And the duties of the female, well, she was a little bit more administrative. But he passed away while I was in prison. And she and I lost contact again while I was in prison. So, because she doesn't live in this state, she lives in another state. And actually, although he was from this state, he was living in another state when he passed away. He was actually down in Atlanta. So, now, under international law, when a nation is created, it can never, ever be dissolved. Even if everybody that were citizens of the nation died and there were zero citizens, the nation actually still exists under international law. It will always exist. It's perpetual, meaning forever. It's a forever nation, right? Just like, well, no, I can't say that, because Indian nations under United States laws are not actual nations, which I read in that case. They're only tribes. They're only considered to be tribes. And a tribe has no rights under international law. They only have the privileges and rights that the United States gives it. Because it basically is that nation is really just a fucking citizen of the United States. It's still under the jurisdiction of the United States, and in my opinion, that's no fucking power. It really ain't. But that whole fucking Indian tribal shit is all a fucking scam to steal the fucking land and resources from the actual indigenous people of the Americas, right? And we know that those $5 Indians, they've been tricked too. They never knew. They never fucking figured out this whole fucking scam that the United States is. I figured the whole fucking scam out. I mean, literally. I had a saying, and this is what got me into the shit. I got a saying that if you feel trapped and you want to get out of a trap, the only way to get out of a trap is to break the trap down piece by piece. So that's what I did. I broke the United States of America down. How does this shit even exist? And yes, there is a United States corporation, but there is also a United States of America, a nation. And that is the nation that is signatory to the Charter of the United Nations and the Charter of the Organization of American States. So the corporation is not the same as the actual nation. And we're going to be suing the nation itself. We'll let the nation deal with its corporation. That's their fucking business. We're not citizens, so we don't give a fuck about their corporation and all the laws under their corporation. I don't give a fuck about that UCC shit. Now, the only fucking laws that I believe apply are the laws that they have in place for people like me who hold positions in a government. Now, there are special laws made for, presidents, ambassadors, people of high positions. So I did utilize their laws in their courts as far as that concerned, because even in their courts, an ambassador has some very special fucking rights. So I did utilize those, and that's how I got out of prison. It took me 2 years. Yeah, it took me 2 years. And when I tell you I went through a lot of shit in the county jail and in prison. For example, the day that I got locked up, I was placed in what we call the hole, but administrative segregation. I was segregated from everybody. I was in a cell by myself. No other motherfuckers in the cell with me, right? And I'm not in a cell that's in a dorm with other motherfuckers. No, I'm in a cell that is in a hallway and there's no other fucking cells. And I was there the entire 10 months. The entire 10 months I was in the fucking county jail. And they came in that motherfucker and they jumped on me. They kept me in that motherfucker for 5 months without a mattress, a blanket. I had to wear the same fucking clothes. They would cut the water off. They would cut the phones off. I tell you, I went through some bullshit. I went through some bullshit. And then when they sent me to prison, even the ride from the county jail to the prison, they literally put me in a little compartment in the van that was separate from all the other 5 motherfuckers that rode to prison with. They would not let me talk to anybody. So I get to prison. Soon as I walk in that motherfucker, the guards who brought me there to the prison spoke to the prison motherfucking guards there. And guess what? They separated me immediately and took me to a cell where I was separated from everyone. And from that day that I went to prison on January 21st, 22nd, 20th, January 20th, 2022, 23, January 20th, 2023, till January 22nd, 2025, I was in a cell by myself. And not only that, I was in the highest level, level 5. Locked down all fucking day. I didn't have a TV. The only thing I got was like legal books that my people sent, had my lawyers, I had my people buy books, law books, and send it to me through my lawyer and shit like that, man. If it wasn't for my mother and father, I ain't gonna lie, I wouldn't have had a piece of paper in that fucking cell. If it wasn't for my mother and father, it was them that even bonded me out. But my point to all that is, because I was arguing this shit, they were trying to break me. They were trying to break my spirit. They did everything they could to get me off of that argument. And I never, ever, faltered from my fucking argument. So, as we progress with this channel, I'm going to, again, ask that people come join. I'm not sure how much I'm gonna charge yet, but I have to charge. I've spent so much money in my life, and I've suffered greatly for this nation. I've suffered a lot. When I tell you they beat my ass, I mean they beat my ass in that motherfucker. I fought back, but shit, what's one nigga against 15 white motherfuckers, all men? Well, it was a couple women, but shit, it was the white men. But yeah, man, I'm gonna charge. Now, back in 2021, I was charging $350 for each person to sign up. I don't know. I don't know. I have to sit down. I'm so fucking busy with this legal shit. I research. I'm writing documents, and right now I'm focused on preparing the lawsuit in the International Court of Justice. And I've been out 6 months, and believe it or not, I'm only on page 12. That, believe it or not, that that's a lot, because I'm also have the legal work that I'm dealing with on my appeal. And then I have a lawsuit about them jumping on me in that county jail that I'm dealing with. So um, I got a lot going on as far as legal work is concerned. So I spend hell minimum 10 hours a day. On good days, shit, hell, I've stayed up 20, 24, 26 hours. But to me, it's all worth it. The end goal is for us to be separate and independent, and the owners of this land. To me, it ain't even, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's definitely about, money, but it's really only a small percentage. To me, I want the fucking power. I want us to be able to exercise fucking power. That's what's important to me. Because with power, sovereign political, let me read y'all that. Uh, Let me read to y'all what sovereign political power means. Okay, hold on. Damn it, where is sovereign political power? Oh, it's under political power. Okay. It's under political power. Sovereign political power. Power, sovereign political power is power that is absolute and uncontrolled within its own sphere. Within its designated limits, its exercise and effective operation do not depend on and are not subject to the power of any other person and cannot be prevented or annulled by any other power recognized within the constitutional system. So the Olmec state is going to be exercising sovereign political power. That's the difference between being a nation under international law and being a tribe under the United States jurisdiction. So by exercising this sovereign political power, and this is what the United States meant in that case about that being an act of hostility, because we're separating ourselves from them and we're demanding the land that they have occupied territory of. So when we become the owners of the land, they fall up under our jurisdiction. As long as the state of Michigan is exercising its political existence in this land under that territory, they got to pay us for it. Or they got to get the fuck on, plain and simple. So, and in my lawsuit, yes, I'm naming the state of Michigan. But because the state of Michigan is, excuse me, is uh, a several state of the United States, and the United States being considered a federal state under international law, whereas whereas the Olmec state is just a foreign state under international law. So as we progress and as people join, I'm going to explain, and this is another reason why I'm charging, because God damn it, took me years to figure this shit out and to educate people on what they're actually getting into. I think $350 is low. I really fucking do. But starting out, I'm thinking it's gonna be $350. That's what I'm thinking. Even though it's kind of low. Shit, it's kind of low. But another goal that I have, seeing how I argued and got out, I plan on helping guys get out of prison. Um, and don't get me wrong, I'm gonna be very picky about that shit because can't know anybody. If a motherfucker in prison for killing another black man, and there's a lot of considerations that has to be done, you know. Um, but like I got a brother who I just left. He doing 400 years. But he's doing 400 years for having to shoot out with the fucking police. And this motherfucker is when I tell you he's intelligent, he is intelligent as fuck. He's still gang banging, but he in prison. Been in prison for the last 12 years. So, in prison, there's gang banging is life. So it is what it is. But because, he bought that fucking life and he is with this shit and he kind of helped me on a lot of shit when I was, as far as getting information and researching and shit. He helped me, he helped me a lot. Once I told him, I broke down shit, showed him shit, he jumped right on board, and he knew a lot of shit, prior to coming to prison. He knew a lot of shit, and that's why he was, had a shootout with the police. Because, he was exercising his right, and shit. That brother is the realest. I fucks with him, and that's my goal, is to get motherfuckers like him out. Motherfuckers who can help us protect our nation. Yes, I'm definitely fucking with women because, again, administrative and even to help protect. I'm of the firm belief that everybody should own and use a fucking weapon. If you are an adult and you become a part of this nation, yes, you are going to be required to have a gun and to protect your life. That turn the other cheek shit, that hands up, don't shoot bullshit, that everything we've done in the past as a people, we ain't doing none of that shit here. It ain't welcome, and we ain't doing it. Here, if a motherfucker threatens your life, you use deadly force to protect it. If a motherfucker's threatening the life of your family or another citizen of the Olmec state, you use that weapon. Because if you don't, motherfucker, you gonna have problems with us. Plain and simple. Over here, we're protecting ours. Every one of us. So that's what we own right now. That soft shit. And intelligence. You ain't gotta be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but god damn it, you ain't gonna be no dull ass butter knife either. You gotta have some level of intellect. And even if you don't, I know that you have enough common sense, because if you don't, we ain't fucking with you. You got to, because there's a lot to understand. They've been tricking us for 250 years that the United States have been in existence. They've been tricking us solely off the law. Contracts, oh my God, contracts is a huge thing. And that's what the United States, because they finna start telling everybody that, black people are the, and they're gonna use the term Indians. They're not gonna use the term indigenous people. The United States is gonna use the term Indian. And that's how they're gonna trick you motherfuckers back into staying rather under their jurisdiction. Because they're just gonna move you motherfuckers into an Indian tribe. And I didn't already explain to you, that's no different than being a citizen of the United States. So you're just changing from one problem to another. They might give you all a little bit more money, but they never gonna give you what you really owe, what you really got coming to you. And over here, you don't get what you got coming to you. When we sue for reparations, I'm talking about we suing for land. We're suing for all the resources that come from the land. Here in Michigan, we got the Great Lakes. That's fresh. This is the only place on the earth where we have the most fresh water. That is the greatest. That's the greatest resource on earth. Water, fresh water. Without fresh water, come on now. And then obviously you got all these other resources, coal, copper, all of it, everything that could gold, all of that shit. This is the land of the Hebrew Israelites. This is what God promised them. And again, this is why you have to claim the identity of a Hebrew Israelite as well. Because man, I'm telling you, on the international level, man, the Hebrew Israelites is really God's chosen people. Like, and everybody knows it. And there's a reason why everybody knows it. This is why the United States is considered a melting pot. All of these nations around the world, they benefit from this nation, man. Think about it. Look at the United States. Look at all the money that they give to these foreign nations. They give them motherfuckers billions of fucking dollars to help because they set this nation up strictly to help European nations. I'm telling you, when I tell y'all I've delved deep down the rabbit hole of the trap that I was in, that we are in, man, I'm telling you, the United States, I ain't gonna lie, it's the greatest fucking scam in the history of man. It is the greatest scam in the history of man. But we finna have the greatest comeback in the history of man. Real motherfucking talk. And they already know, I ain't gonna lie, I don't go out too often. Like, I don't really go out too often because I'm a strategic thinker. I'm out on bond. They're, even though they know I know my shit, and no matter what fucking court they pull me into, this is the only thing that's gonna spew out my motherfucking mouth. You can't trick me. I've proven it. I was facing life without parole just on the 2 attempted murders. And then when I beat the 2 people with the baseball bat, I was facing 40 years each count. That's 80 years. So they was trying to bury me forever. And I went in there and I didn't change nothing I said. I stood on this Olmec state. I stood on that shit. And I'm standing on it today. And I'm going to be buried on it. But best believe I'm the type of motherfucker, if I'm taking some motherfuckers with me. You come for me, I'm taking some motherfuckers with me. Real talk. And that's how everybody around me gotta be. You can't just that video I watched a couple weeks ago with dude and the truck driver and the motherfuckers pulling up on him. First of all, why is you driving a motherfucking truck and you ain't strapped? Nigga. The times we live now, I don't understand why a motherfucker who ain't got a criminal record ain't strapped. Because they They got these colonized mindsets, and what I mean by colonized, I mean religious colonized minds. You know, they're inferior. And over here, we don't have an inferiority complex. Nothing about us is inferior. I'm not gonna hold y'all much longer on this particular video, but on the next video, I don't know. I gotta sit down and make a plan. Like I said, man, I got 3 cases, legal cases going on, and I got 2 legal cases going on, and I'm preparing this document for the International Court of Justice. So I'm busy all day long. But thank you for joining me, and come back again.